conceal my identity as an assassin. I married a man who couldn't even bring himself to kill a spider. During a later mission, I encountered the legendary top-tier assassin Orbit. Behind his mask, his eyes were as cold as frost. And the Glock pistol in his hand was pointed straight at my forehead.
But why? Why?
Was the wedding ring I gave my husband hanging from the necklace around Orbit's neck? The moment I finished dealing with the target, a message from my husband Nathan flashed across my phone screen. I dragged the body out of sight with practiced ease and clipped onto the rope I'd anchored to the window frame earlier and rappelled down the side of the brownstone. Black Aston Martin was idling at the curb. Just as planned, I slid into the passenger seat. Lilith, my handler and getaway driver, tossed a pack of wet wipes into my lap. Without taking her eyes off the road, I wiped my hands, the sharp scent of antiseptic cutting through the city air. Finally, I unlocked my phone. Nathan had sent me a selfie, a playful shot of him in the kitchen, wearing nothing but the apron I got him for Christmas. I softened my voice, holding the phone to my ear. Hey, baby, wait up for me, okay? Got held up at work, but I'm on my way home now. From the driver's seat, Lilith made an exaggerated gagging noise. God, Anya, you're disgusting, aren't you? People supposed to be all reserved and stoic. A small smile played on my lips. If you had a husband as sweet as mine waiting at home with a hot meal, you'd be just like me. He's half American, half British, with this ridiculously handsome face and a heart of gold. He has soft black hair, a gentle nature, and a chest I could get lost in. The moment I walked through the door, Nathan was there. Honey, you're finally home, he murmured into my hair. The light in the living room went out. I was getting scared, and I don't know how to fix it. I melted into his embrace for a second before pulling away. Don't worry, I've got it. I hopped onto a chair and swapped out the dead bulb for a new one. For a woman who's personal best for blind, assembling a Desert Eagle is 22 seconds. It was child's play. But my helpless husband looked at me with pure, unadulterated awe. You're amazing, Anya. I leaned down and kissed him in my eyes. A man who could conjure up the feel laid out on our dining table was just as amazing. We sat down to eat, and I asked casually, So, what did you get up to today, baby? Nathan paused for a beat, a fork halfway to his mouth, and smiled. Oh, watered the plants, did a deep clean of the bathroom. Then I started prepping for dinner. I couldn't resist. I snuggled closer, wrapping my arms around his waist and whispering in his ear, Dinner's over, ready for dessert. Without a word, he scooped me up and carried me to the bedroom. But just as his fingers began undoing the buttons of my shirt, he froze. You said you were working late, he said, his voice suddenly tight. Does working late now involve getting a man's tie stuffed in your pocket? My eyes widened as he pulled a wrinkled silk tie from my coat pocket, the murder weapon I'd used to strangle my target 2 hours ago. Nathan held me, tears streaming down his face. What did I do wrong? He choked out. Why would you need someone else? Is it because I don't have a job? I have savings, Anya. A lot. It's all yours, honey. Please don't leave me. His words were punctuated by desperate, ragged breaths, and my attempts to deny everything were lost in shattered moans. As he moved against me, all I could do was hold him tighter. The next morning, I tried again, insisting that I loved him, only him, and that I would never, ever cheat. But I couldn't explain the tie. To prove my loyalty, I took the entire week off during my schedule to stay home with Nathan. My life is a tightrope walk over a pit of danger, but I would never, ever allow my sweet, gentle husband to be exposed to any of it. His sadness steepened. Still, he cooked me lavish meals and told me with a determined look in his eye, It's not your fault. I believe you, Anya. You didn't cheat. It must have been some creep from the outside trying to seduce you. That's why he would do something so sleazy. Putting his tie in your pocket. I latched onto the excuse. You're right, baby. It was definitely my creepy coworker. But he has no chance. I can't stand those cold robotic tech eyes. I only love you. You're so gentle. You make me want to protect you. Nathan's hand, which had been struggling with a can of tomatoes, suddenly stilled. Honey, he handed the can and the opener to me. I can't get it.
Can you help me?
I popped the lid open with a simple twist of my wrist. He gazed at me, his eyes filled with that familiar adoration and love. I looked at him and said sincerely, If I ever betray you, I whispered softly, you can beat me soundly and then divorce me. I felt him smile against my cheek. His voice was as gentle as always. When he replied no, I'd kill him, we'd never get divorced. What a childish and ridiculous promise this. Couldn't even bring himself to slaughter a chicken for dinner. My husband could never have imagined that. His wife had actually killed many, many men. When Lilith finally lost her patience, and started screaming at me through the secure comms unit. I told Nathan I had to end my vacation and get back to the office. We're already short-handed, and you dare to go off-grid for a week? Can you stop hovering over that house husband of yours? For 5 minutes, I couldn't be bothered to argue. She would never understand this kind of happiness. Anything big on the horizon? I asked, a smile creeping into my voice. Our first wedding anniversary is next month. I want to buy him something really, really expensive, Lilith muttered before her tone turned sly. Actually, there is something, $1 million bounty, but it's already been claimed. I wasn't concerned. There aren't many people who can outbid me for a contract. You don't trust me? What she said next, however, sent a genuine jolt through me. The person who claimed it, she said, her voice dropping, is Orbit. Orbit name every killer knew. A legend, an insurmountable force. He owed loyalty to no organization. His only allegiance was to flawless mission execution. It didn't matter who the target was or where they hid. A president, a warlord, another elite assassin. Orbit would finish the job within the deadline. His own name commanded the highest bounty on the dark web, a sum so astronomical no one dared accept the contract. When I was younger, I was arrogant. Once took a contract that Orbit had already claimed. I ended up watching from a distance as my targets had exploded. From a perfect shot fired, from 600 meters away, I never even saw a shadow of Orbit. But things were different now. I was a married woman. I had a sweet, helpless husband to support. I decided to take it. I would at least try. Rumor had it, he turned down a $5 million contract to take out a mercenary leader, claiming he needed to focus on his family and cut back on the rough stuff. No one believed it. The consensus was that he'd made so much money. He was planning a gradual retirement. Lilith started gossiping again. I heard he's got British blood. Are all you Brits? So, I snapped the comms unit shut. At the Styx Club, the largest underground casino in Las Vegas, I stood behind a blackjack table, my face hidden by a stark white mask. Dressed in a tight black gown, I dealt cards with dist fluid motions. Everyone here, from the patrons to the staff, was masked. The big job Lilith had assigned me, the $1 million contract, was here, and so was he, the legendary assassin everyone feared, Orbit. The target's name was Kavi, 38 years old, Persian British. He cultivated the image of a refined gentleman, but in reality, he was a monster. Under the guise of philanthropic medical investments, Kavi secretly financed illegal human experimentation projects across the globe. My client was a mother whose daughter had been taken from her when one of my colleagues rescued the girl from Kavi's research facility. She was missing both of her eyes and her lower legs. 3 days after coming home, the 17-year-old girl killed herself with a fruit knife. Recent events had made Kavi paranoid. He was now constantly surrounded by a team of bodyguards. But here inside the Styx Club, no one without an invitation was allowed. This was my chance. I waited patiently until a masked hobby sat down at my table. My fingers flew, shuffling and cutting the deck with a flourish. In the seamless arc of the cards, I made my move, an ace. They landed perfectly in Kavi's hand. After a few rounds, Kavi's stack of chips had grown considerably. He leaned back, rubbing his left arm with a satisfied hum. He was relaxing. My own nerves, however, were tightening. Despite me feeding cards to Kavi, one man at the table kept winning. In fact, he was winning more than everyone else combined. He wore an impeccably tailored black velvet suit, and an emerald brooch on his lapel caught the dim light with a predatory glint. No matter how much he won, his demeanor never changed. It was a statue of calm indifference, stacking his chips with slow, deliberate movements. There was an aloofness about him, the cold detachment of a man accustomed to being in control. He knew I was cheating. He had to. I took a deep breath, preparing for the next hand. Suddenly, the lights in the casino went out. A moment later, a smooth voice echoed from the overhead speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Styx Club's midnight masquerade. A single dark, gold spotlight illuminated a dance floor on one side of the casino. Soft jazz began to play, and the crowd started to move. A gloved hand extended, a delicate one accepted. Masked figures began to twirl and sway, their silhouettes weaving through the golden haze. I leaned against the blackjack table, my eyes locked on Kavi. As he made his way toward the dance floor, my hand slipped into a hidden slit in my dress, my fingertips brushing the hilt of my knife. I had a plan: lure him into the shadows and end his life without a sound. I took a step forward, and an icy point of metal pressed sharply against the small of my back. Don't move. The man's voice was a low, cold monotone, utterly devoid of emotion. Every nerve in my body screamed, but I kept my expression neutral. The Sticks has a no firearms policy. You fire that gun, and you won't walk out of here alive either. Is that so? He replied, his tone flat. Feel free to test it. The one small mercy was that the man in the suit didn't seem to want to cause a scene. He prodded me forward with the gun, guiding me through the club's internal corridors. Every employee we passed, from dealers to security guards, stepped aside and bowed their heads respectfully. Not a single person questioned the weapon in his hand. My stomach sank. I was in deep trouble. We walked to the end of a long hallway and entered an impossibly lavish,
private suite.
a crystal chandelier cast a cold, sterile light from the ceiling, knocking out a dealer and hiding her in a supply closet without anyone noticing.
You've got some skills, he said.
I raised my hands in a gesture of surrender. If I'd known you were the owner of the Sticks, I would have been feeding you the winning hands. He ignored me completely. I respect talent, so I'll give you the courtesy of knowing why you're about to die, Nix. My pupils contracted. He knew my code name. The owner of the Sticks Club was Orbit Shit. If I'd known this was his territory, I never would have taken this job. But I couldn't die here. Nathan was waiting for me. Our anniversary was coming up. I forced a smile. We're in the same business. Can't we talk this out? Before the words were even out of my mouth, I drew a miniature pistol from a hidden holster in my dress. But Orbit was faster. A single clean kick sent my gun flying. He snatched a silver dinner fork from a nearby table and threw it like a dart. I jerked my head to the side. The times grazed my cheek, tearing my white mask and sending it fluttering to the floor. My face was exposed. The gun in his hand, which had been aimed squarely at my forehead, wavered for a fraction of a second.
Bang!
The bullet screamed past my ear, shattering a crystal glass on the bar behind me. He stared at me, then took a slow, deep breath. The sound of the shattered glass was still ringing in my ears. I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. Orbit stood there, his chest heaving slightly beneath that impeccable velvet suit. The gun was still raised, but the barrel had drifted inches to the right. Through the eye holes of his mask, a terrifying, featureless expanse of black chrome, I tried to read his intent. He lowered the gun.
Go, he commanded.
The voice was different now. It wasn't the monotone robotic drawl from before. It was strained, gravelly, and oddly familiar. Excuse me? I choked out, my hand still inching toward the knife in my dress slit. The ventilation shaft in the north corridor, he snapped, turning his back to me. It leads to the loading dock.
Leave. Now.
Before I changed my mind. I didn't ask twice. In my line of work, hesitation is a death sentence. I scrambled backward, keeping my eyes on him until I hit the door, then I turned and sprinted. As I ran, my mind raced faster than my feet.
Why?
Orbit never leaves witnesses. Why did he hesitate when he saw my face? And then, the image flashed in my mind, searing itself into my memory. When he had turned away, the movement caused the heavy silver chain around his neck to swing outside his velvet jacket. Hanging from it was a ring. A simple, platinum band with a small imperfection on the inside rim, a scratch from when I'd accidentally dropped it in the garbage disposal 2 days after our wedding. My blood turned to ice. Why was the wedding ring I gave my husband hanging from the necklace around Orbit's neck? I hit the cool night air of the alleyway, gasping. Lilith's voice crackled in my ear. Nix. Status. I lost your feed. Kavi is leaving the building. Forget Kavi, I whispered, my voice trembling with a terrifying realization.
Get the car.
We're going home. I beat him home by 20 minutes. I scrubbed the casino smoke from my hair, threw my dress into the incinerator chute, and changed into oversized flannel pajamas. When I heard the front door unlock, I was sitting on the couch, pretending to read a magazine. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. Nathan walked in. He looked exhausted. He was wearing a beige trench coat, and as he took it off, I saw he was favoring his left side, exactly where I had kicked Orbit before he disarmed me. Honey? I called out, forcing that sweet, high-pitched voice I used only for him. You're late. I was getting worried. Nathan froze. He looked at me, his eyes wide and panicked, before softening into that dopey, loving look I had fallen for. I know, baby. I'm so sorry. The lines at the grocery store were insane. And then I realized I forgot the milk, so I had to go back. Come here, I said, patting the spot next to me. He sat down stiffly. I wrapped my arms around his neck, burying my face in his shoulder. I smelled it immediately. Beneath the scent of his cheap cologne and rain, there was the faint, metallic tang of gun oil and the specific sulfur smell of the Sticks Club ventilation system. I pulled back, my hands resting on his chest. Where's your ring, Nathan? He went pale. His hand flew to his bare ring finger. Oh God, Anya. I must have taken it off when I was washing the vegetables. I didn't want to get gunk in it. It must be by the sink. I checked the sink, I said, my voice dropping an octave, losing its sweetness. It's not there. Then it fell down the drain. He stood up, flustered, acting the part of the clumsy husband perfectly. I'll take the pipes apart right now. I'm so sorry, honey. I watched him rush to the kitchen. He's lying. My sweet, bumbling Nathan. The man who cried during the notebook. The man who dry heaved when he saw a dead pigeon. He was Orbit. The realization didn't make me angry. It made me terrified. Because if he was Orbit and I was Nyx, we were the two most dangerous people on the planet, and we had both been lying to the only person we loved for 3 years. The next 3 days were a torture of silent surveillance. We played house. He made waffles, I complimented them. I went to work, the agency. He went to run errands, assassinations. But the dynamic had shifted. I watched him track a fly across the room with predator-like focus before remembering to act clumsy and swat wildly at it. He watched me chop vegetables, his eyes narrowing as he noticed the professional efficiency of my knife work. We were circling each other. The breaking point came on Thursday. Lilith pinged me with a frantic update. Kavi has resurfaced. He's hosting a private auction at the port tonight. He's selling the remaining test subjects. This is it, Anya. Last chance to kill him. I'm in, I said. I told Nathan I had a corporate retreat. He told me he was going to a pottery class. At midnight, I was perched on top of a shipping container at the chaotic Los Angeles docks. The wind was howling, masking the sound of my sniper rifle setup. I looked through the scope. Kavi was there, surrounded by 20 armed guards. Wind speed, 15 knots. I muttered to myself. Distance, 800 meters. I exhaled, my finger tightening on the trigger.
Click.
Suddenly, the floodlights in the shipping yard exploded. All of them. The docks were plunged into darkness. What the hell? Lilith hissed in my ear. Someone else is here, I said, abandoning the rifle and drawing my pistols. Gunfire erupted below. It wasn't the chaotic spray of gangsters. It was the rhythmic, precise double taps of a master. I looked down using my thermal goggles. A figure in black was moving through Kavi's guards like smoke. Orbit. He was stealing my kill again. Not this time, you bastard, I growled. I rappelled down the side of the container, landing silently on the concrete. I sprinted toward the chaos. Kavi was running toward a speedboat. Orbit was pinned down behind a forklift by heavy machine gun fire. I had a choice. Kill Kavi and let Orbit die, or save my rival. I didn't think. I acted. I flanked the machine gunner, putting 2 bullets in the back of his neck. Orbit spun around, his gun leveled at me. We froze. 2 masked assassins amidst a pile of bodies. You're welcome, I said, my voice modulated by my mask. I had it under control, Orbit replied, his voice also synthesized. Focus, I yelled. Kavi is getting away. The boat's engine roared. We both broke into a run, shoulder to shoulder. We moved in perfect synchronization, covering each other's blind spots without speaking. It was like a dance of violent, bloody waltz we had rehearsed 1,000 times in our kitchen without knowing it. Kavi's boat was pulling away. Orbit didn't stop running. He launched himself off the edge of the dock. I instinctively threw my hands out, interlacing my fingers to create a step. He planted his boot in my hands, and I heaved him upward. He soared through the air, landing on the back deck of the speedboat. I watched as he engaged Kavi in hand-to-hand combat. But Kavi was desperate. He pulled a grenade. Jump, I screamed, forgetting my voice modulator. Orbit kicked Kavi into the cabin and dove into the water just as the boat disintegrated in a massive fireball. I stood on the edge of the dock, heart pounding. Orbit. The water was black. Silent. Nathan, I screamed, tearing off my mask. A hand broke the surface. He gasped for air, dragging himself up a rusty ladder. He flopped onto the concrete, coughing up water. His mask was gone, lost in the explosion. He rolled onto his back, looking up at the night sky. Then he turned his head and looked at me. I was standing over him, my mask in my hand, tears stinging my eyes. Nathan looked at me. He looked at the tactical gear, the guns, the blood on my hands. He didn't look surprised. He looked relieved. Hey, honey, he wheezed. Did you have a good corporate retreat? I let out a wet, hysterical laugh. It was okay. How was pottery class? Explosive. The drive home was silent. We took the Aston Martin. Nathan drove. I applied antiseptic to a cut on his forehead. So he started, his eyes on the road. Orbit. Nyx, I replied. Top tier. He nodded appreciatively. I've admired your work in Budapest. The senator? Clean shot through the transit window. That was you who cleared the bodyguards.
Yeah. He paused.
I can't believe I married the competition. I can't believe I married a man who pretends he can't open a jar of pickles. I countered, the anger finally bubbling up. Do you know how many jars I've opened for you, Nathan? Hundreds. I didn't want you to know, he defended himself. I wanted out, Anya. When I met you, you were so normal. So innocent. I wanted to be the man you deserved. A gentle man. A safe man. I didn't need safe. I yelled. I needed you. All of you. He pulled the car over to the shoulder of the highway. He turned to me, his expression intense. I couldn't risk it. If my enemies knew I had a wife, they'd come for you. I was protecting you. I don't need protection, I said, reloading my Glock with an aggressive click. I'm the one who knocks. He stared at me for a second, and then a slow grin spread across his face. It wasn't the goofy Nathan smile. It was a dangerous, wolfish grin that made my knees weak. God, you are so hot right now, he growled. He kissed me. It wasn't a gentle peck. It was fierce, desperate, and tasted like adrenaline and seawater. For the first time in 3 years, there were no barriers between us. No lies. Just two killers who finally found their equals. We have a problem, though, I whispered against his lips. Kavi.
No.
Kavi is dead. The problem is the bounty. Nathan pulled back. What bounty? Lilith put a hit on Orbit. 5 million. And I accepted it. Nathan blinked. You accepted a contract to kill me? I didn't know it was you. And technically, you accepted the contract to kill Kavi, which I also accepted, so you owe me money. Wait. Nathan's face darkened. If Lilith put out the hit, does Lilith know who I am?
No.
Only that Orbit is the target. Then we're okay. We just tell her Orbit is dead. Kavi killed him. It's not that simple, I said grimly. Lilith isn't just a handler. She works for the high table. If they think Orbit is dead, they'll want proof. They'll want a body. Nathan looked at me, his mind working tactically. Then we give them a body. We spent the weekend planning our own deaths. It was remarkably romantic. We cooked dinner together. Real cooking this time, with Nathan chopping onions at supersonic speed and me juggling steak knives. We cleaned our weapons on the coffee table while watching a rom-com. So, Nathan said, polishing his sniper scope. The plan is simple. We lure the high table's cleanup crew to the old warehouse district. We plant your DNA and mine at the blast site. We disappear. Where do we go? I asked.
Bali?
I have a safe house there. Or maybe just the suburbs. Somewhere new. Where we can be Nathan and Anya, but without the lies. I like the sound of that. But nothing goes to plan. Monday morning, our house was surrounded. Not by the high table. By mercenaries. Who are these guys? Nathan asked, peeking through the blinds. They aren't agency. I saw a patch on one of their tactical vests. A red skull. They're Kavi's private army, I realized. Kavi isn't dead. He survived the boat explosion. Cockroach, Nathan muttered. And he tracked us? He must have had a tracker on you.
Or you.
Point taken. The front window shattered. A flashbang rolled into the living room. Eyes. Nathan shouted. We both shielded our eyes as the room went white. Then we moved. It was a massacre, and it was beautiful. Nathan took the hallway, I took the kitchen. He moved with brutal efficiency, using his bare hands and a fireplace poker. I utilized the environment, boiling water from the kettle, a cast iron skillet, and my trusty silenced pistol. We met back in the living room, back to back. Reloading, I shouted. Covering, he replied, firing 3 shots over my shoulder. We can't stay here, I said. They'll burn the house down. My apron. Nathan gasped. The one you got me for Christmas. Leave it, Nathan. I'll buy you a tactical one. We fought our way to the garage. The Aston Martin was blocked by an armored truck. Take the bike, Nathan said, pointing to the dusty Ducati under a tarp that he claimed belonged to his cousin. We hopped on. Nathan drove, I rode pillion, facing backward with a submachine gun in each hand. Hold on tight, honey. We burst through the garage door, launching into the street. I unleashed hell on the pursuing vehicles, tires popping, glass shattering. Kavi is tracking us to the old steel mill. Nathan shouted over the wind. I'm ending this tonight. The steel mill was a maze of rusted catwalks and molten metal. Kavi was waiting for us. He was burned, half his face bandaged, standing on a platform overlooking a vat of molten slag. He had Lilith. She was tied to a chair, dangling over the heat. Welcome, lovebirds. Kavi screamed, his voice raspy. I figured it out. The 2 greatest assassins in the world, playing house. It's poetic. Nathan stopped the bike. We dismounted, guns drawn. Let her go, Kavi, I said. Drop your weapons, Kavi ordered, or your friend takes a warm bath. I looked at Nathan. He looked at me. We knew the drill. We slowly placed our guns on the ground. Kick them away.
We did.
Now. Kavi smiled, pulling a remote detonator. I'm going to blow this platform. You 2 die. I keep the handler, and I sell your identities to the highest bidder. You talk too much, Nathan said casually.
What?
I said, you talk too much.
Anya, Dirk.
I dropped to the floor instantly. Nathan didn't reach for a gun. He reached for his neck. He ripped the necklace off, the one holding his wedding ring. With a flick of his wrist that defied physics, he threw the ring. It wasn't just a ring. It was a weighted platinum disc. It flew through the air, glinting in the orange light, and struck Kavi squarely in the throat. Kavi gagged, his trachea crushed. He stumbled back, dropping the detonator. I was already moving. I sprinted forward, leaped off the railing, and grabbed the chain holding Lilith's chair just as Kavi fell backward over the edge. He screamed as he fell into the molten slag. A short, sharp hiss and he was gone. I hauled Lilith up to safety. She looked at me, then at Nathan, who was calmly putting his necklace back on, minus the ring. So, Lilith said, shaking. Your orbit.
Lilith, nasaan baba?
Big fan of your logistical work. And you, she looked at me. You knew? Just found out, I shrugged. Lilith sighed, looking at the two of us. You guys are disgusting. And perfect. I hate you both. 6 months later, the sun was setting over the Italian Amalfi coast. We sat on the terrace of our villa, sipping wine. Dinner's almost ready, Nathan said. I made risotto. Did you use the poison mushrooms or the regular ones? I asked, not looking up from my book. Regular. The poison ones are for the guest arriving at 9 p.m. Good to know. I looked at him. He was wearing a new apron. Tactical black Kevlar. You know, I said, I think I liked you better when you were helpless. Nathan smirked, leaning over to kiss me. I was never helpless, Anya. I was just conserving energy. He walked back to the kitchen, whistling. I checked my phone. A message from Lilith, new contract. 2 targets in Paris. Double payout. I typed back, we're in, but we need a babysitter for the dog. I looked at my husband, the deadliest man alive, currently fretting over whether the Parmesan was aged enough. Nathan, I called out. Yeah, baby, pack your bags. We're going to Paris. Can we kill the target before we visit the Louvre? I want to see the Mona Lisa. We'll see, I smiled. We'll see. Life was still a tightrope walk over a pit of danger. But now, at least, I wasn't walking it alone.